Since Downton Abbey officially premiered in 2010, the series has captivated audiences not only with its dramatic tales of aristocratic life, but also through a remarkable cast who breathe life into every character. More than a decade has passed, and time has quietly changed everything. In this video, we look back at the journeys of the Downton Abbey stars, from their first appearances on screen to their lives in 2026, where the transformations may surprise you. Robert Crawley emerges as the image of a traditional aristocrat confronting a crisis of patriarchal authority within a shifting social order. Born on November 10, 1963, Hugh Bonneville took on the role at the age of 46, bringing a dignified bearing, a deep voice, and a restrained hesitation characteristic of someone long accustomed to power, yet gradually losing his footing. Robert does not collapse noisily. Instead, his insecurity reveals itself through hesitant decisions and a sense of being overtaken by his era. At 62, Hugh Bonneville is recognized as a representative figure of British television for his portrayals of traditional gentlemen facing waves of social change. Lady Edith Crawley begins as someone consistently overlooked within her own family, only to gradually assert herself through choices, mistakes, and resilient determination. Born on July 16, 1986, Laura Carmichael took on the role at the age of 24, delivering a richly layered emotional journey, from quiet hurt to deliberate, hard-won maturity. Edith does not triumph through inherited power, but through her ability to rise after abandonment and loss. The slow, patient evolution creates a rare depth. At 39, Laura Carmichael is recognized as an actress who has fully embodied the journey of self-definition on British television. Charles Clarkson stands as the embodiment of discipline and class order, keeping Downton running according to strict propriety amid a changing world. Born on August 19, 1948, Jim Carter took on the role at the age of 62, bringing a formal bearing, a solemn voice, and an almost absolute devotion to the system he serves. Carson is not flexible, yet it is precisely this rigidity that exposes the weight of tradition and the fear of losing order. At 77, Jim Carter is recognized as a representative figure in portraying the behind-the-scenes authority of the aristocratic servant class on British television. John Bates is positioned on the margins, where personal morality must stand on its own amid suspicious gazes and class prejudice. Born on December 2, 1963, Brendan Coyle took on the role at the age of 46, bringing a restrained presence, a tightly held gaze, and the enduring composure of someone long accustomed to injustice. Bates does not seek pity. His dignity is preserved through loyalty and consistency in his choices. The tragedies that surround him do not break him, but instead clarify the limits of goodness within a harsh social order. At 62, Brendan Coyle is recognized for his ability to portray quiet moral depth on British television. Lady Mary Crawley emerges as a model of aristocratic womanhood, shaped by emotional control and personal authority, while concealing deep-seated wounds. Born on December 15, 1981, Michelle Dockery took on the role at the age of 29, bringing a cool composure, a sharp gaze, and an almost absolute self-mastery in every decision. Mary does not wait to be rescued. She determines her own fate amid duty, desire, and loss. It is precisely this blend of hardness and vulnerability that creates her lasting appeal. At 44, Dockery is recognized as a representative figure of British television for portraying complex upper-class female power. Anna Bates is portrayed as an embodiment of the dignity of working women, where endurance does not equate to submission. Born on August 23, 1980, Joanne Froggatt took on the role at the age of 30, bringing a sustained warmth through a gentle gaze, measured delivery, and the ability to preserve humanity amid harsh trials. Anna does not seek power. Her strength lies in loyalty, kindness, and the will to survive. It is this quiet emotional depth that gives the character lasting weight. At 45, Joanne Froggatt is recognized as one of British television's representative figures for restrained, deeply humane performances. Thomas Barrow emerges as an anti-hero on the margins of power, where a repressed homosexual identity collides directly with a harsh class order. Born on September 23, 1976, Rob James Collier took on the role at the age of 34, bringing a cold, piercing gaze, a restrained voice, and a constantly guarded energy. Thomas manipulates in order to survive, turns bitter to conceal his wounds, yet also yearns for recognition. This inner struggle creates one of the most complex portraits in the series. At 49, Rob James Collier is recognized for his ability to portray bold, marginalized depth on British television. Mrs. Hughes appears as a model of the female housekeeper who wields soft power, managing the backstage world through understanding rather than command. Born on January 22, 1956, Phyllis Logan took on the role at the age of 54, bringing a calm presence, a warm voice, and an ability to balance discipline with compassion. She does not impose order, but instead creates stability through listening and subtle guidance. It is this quiet form of leadership that makes Mrs. Hughes a moral anchor for the servant class. At 69, Phyllis Logan is recognized as a symbol of soft power on British television. Daisy Mason presents a portrait of a young working-class woman beginning to awaken to a sense of self-worth and the right to choose. Born on May 17, 1985, Sophie McShera took on the role at the age of 25, bringing a subtle transformation from naive obedience to self-questioning and a hunger for learning. Daisy does not rebel loudly. Change comes through reading, labor, and small but persistent questions. This journey exposes the pressures of class embedded in everyday life. At 40, Sophie McShera is recognized for her ability to portray a slow yet convincing process of maturation on British television. Mrs. Patmore brings a strain of everyday humor closely tied to working-class female authority, where the kitchen becomes a space of power and voice. Born on August 7, 1953, Leslie Nichol took on the role at the age of 57, conveying sharpness through brisk dialogue, a resonant voice, and an ability to turn domestic tensions into deeply humane comedy. Beneath her brusque exterior lies protectiveness and a strong sense of collective responsibility. It is this blend of humor and care that makes Mrs. Patmore an irreplaceable emotional pillar. At 72, Leslie Nichol is recognized as a representative figure of working-class comedy on British television. Violet Crawley appears as a form of pure intellectual power, where aristocratic wit becomes an instrument of subtle control. Born on December 28, 1934, Maggie Smith took on the role at the age of 76, wielding razor-sharp dialogue, a sardonic gaze, and masterful timing to dominate every conversation. Violet does not need to issue commands. Her influence flows from intelligence and a lifetime of experience that transcends eras. Maggie Smith passed away on September 27, 2024, at the age of 89. Leaving behind one of the greatest intellectual and comedic figures in the history of British television. Isobel Crawley represents the spirit of social reform and progressive morality, consistently challenging the entrenched rituals of the aristocracy through reason and compassion. Born on June 3, 1946, Penelope Wilton took on the role at the age of 64, bringing a calm demeanor, a steady voice, and a frankness that does not shy away from debate. Isobel does not seek to dominate, but instead persistently expands the boundaries of empathy and communal responsibility. At 79, Penelope Wilton is recognized as one of the representative figures of British television for her sustained and convincing portrayals of progressive ethics. Joseph Molesley emerges as the image of a man caught in class decline, where male dignity is continually tested by unemployment and precarious social standing. Born on September 26, 1962, Kevin Doyle took on the role at the age of 48, bringing a rare sensitivity through downcast eyes, awkward gestures, and persistent efforts to preserve self-respect. Molesley is not bitter. He is pained by a keen awareness of his own downward trajectory. It is this kindness in the midst of failure that makes the character deeply moving. At 63, Kevin Doyle is recognized for his ability to portray human dignity under adverse circumstances on British television. Tom Branson enters Downton as the voice of an immigrant and of radical politics, bringing direct class conflict into contact with the entrenched aristocratic order. Born on May 18, 1981, Ellen Leach took on the role at the age of 29, combining frankness, a resolute gaze, and ideological passion to create a character unwilling to remain confined by convention. Tom is not merely rebellious, he gradually learns to negotiate between his beliefs and familial responsibility. This journey broadens the social scope of the series. At 44, Alan Leach is recognized for his ability to portray class and political transformation convincingly on British television. Dr. Clarkson represents the voice of science in a world governed by tradition and ritual. Born on May 29, 1947, David Robb took on the role at the age of 63, bringing a calm demeanor, precise delivery, and the caution of someone who places evidence above sentiment. Clarkson does not confront loudly. He persistently defends reason amid class pressure and entrenched beliefs. His presence clarifies the tension between medical progress and social authority. At 78, David Robb is recognized for portraying intellectual, restrained, and authoritative figures on British television. Sarah O'Brien operates a form of negative power rooted in manipulation, resentment, and the ability to exploit others' weaknesses. Born on April 26, 1966, Siobhan Finneran took on the role at the age of 44, bringing a cold gaze, a sweet yet poisonous voice, and the chilling patience characteristic of someone who quietly controls events behind the scenes. O'Brien does not seek recognition. Her drive comes from a sense of being overlooked and a desire for retaliation. It is this active embrace of malice that makes the character both memorable and unsettling. At 59, Siobhan Finneran is recognized for her ability to portray hauntingly effective, everyday antagonists on British television. Matthew Crawley represents a new model of aristocracy, where modern ethics and a sense of personal responsibility collide directly with inherited privilege. Born on October 10, 1982, Dan Stevens took on the role at the age of 28, bringing a composed manner, an open gaze, and an unshowy sincerity. Matthew does not seek to dominate Downton, but instead gradually redefines inheritance through fairness and social obligation. His presence creates a clear moral counterbalance within the series. At 43, Dan Stevens is recognized as an actor who infused a modern vitality into the classical aristocratic structure of British television. Phyllis Baxter is placed at the center of a journey of redemption, where personal morality is shaped by remorse and the desire to make amends rather than by status or power. Born on January 22, 1968, Raquel Cassidy took on the role at the age of 45, bringing a reserved demeanor, a gaze tinged with constant guilt, and the caution of someone who fully understands the cost of past mistakes. Baxter does not attempt to justify her history, but instead chooses to quietly compensate through kindness and self-discipline. It is this very restraint that creates a rare moral depth. At 57, Raquel Cassidy is recognized for her ability to portray complex, deeply human interior characters on British television. Lady Sybil Crawley emerges as a symbol of feminism intertwined with humanitarian spirit, where compassion transcends class boundaries and aristocratic convention. Born on September 14, 1989, Jessica Brown Findlay took on the role at the age of 21, bringing freshness, a resolute gaze, and emotionally unguarded sincerity. Sybil does not persuade through power, but through her commitment to action and selfless sacrifice. Her tragic ending makes the character unforgettable while deeply reinforcing the series' humanistic message. At 35, Jessica Brown Findlay is recognized as a performer who left a powerful mark despite limited screen time. Cora Crawley carries the perspective of an American woman entering the world of the British aristocracy, becoming a conciliatory bridge between social classes and cultural values. Born on July 18, 1961, Elizabeth McGovern took on the role at the age of 49, conveying composure through a gentle voice, a compassionate gaze, and a rare capacity for listening within a family bound by ritual. Cora does not impose authority, but sustains her influence through empathy and pragmatism. It is this flexibility that enables the Crawley family to adapt to their time. At 64, Elizabeth McGovern is recognized for her portrayal of a strong intermediary woman on British television. Downton Abbey may have come to an end, but the memories, emotions, and lasting impact it left behind continue to stand the tests of time. Every actor and every character carries a unique journey, reflecting the constant changes of life beyond the screen. Thank you for joining us on this return to the past. If you enjoy stories of then and now, don't forget to like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.